We always start with introductions. I'm Nancy. I'm in Lynn County, and Carol Truba tonight is holding down the fort for Benton County, where she's about to travel, but everybody else is already traveling. And in Lynn County, there is Mark Leonard and Steve Harbert and Brenda Sterner, because we don't travel enough, obviously. And Susan, who always tells us what people said.
Okay, well, several of the things are things that I do as well. A couple people said going for a walk, walking in the woods, working in their garden, reading a mystery story, reading Heather Cox Richardson, which I do every day, sitting on their deck, doing the New York Times puzzles. For me, it's going out to my garden and picking flowers and making flower bouquets for myself or my daughter or whoever's around.
And
Yes.
I said, maybe I didn't hit send, but I said doing an act of kindness to someone else. And I have to say, in my whole life, that's always seemed to me, it's the thing that's always made me feel better about life, um, for whatever reason. So, welcome, and we will get started. Okay. There's our prompt. We're going to start with some words of wisdom and inspiration. Think we got some good ones this time. We have a brief timeline, but knowing you all, you've seen it a couple of times, so we'll skip through that. And then we'll look at how we've come to tonight, the steps that we've taken in thinking about how do we communicate our vision strategically. And we actually put together a kind of framework to do that I forgot to open, but I will in a second. And we'll show you how we looked at it, and then we'll go through each group and what we think about that. So, wisdom and inspiration. Susan?
Yes, sorry, I had to find my mute button. Again, this is another Rebecca Solnit quote. A friend of mine reminded me that the word encourage literally means to instill courage. We can do that or its opposite with how we speak, with what we say, with how we show up. It's not the only work we can do during this emergency, but it's an important part of it. It's a big part of how we express a spirit of defiance, of resoluteness, how we act with the knowledge that emotions and attitudes are contagious, be they fear or courage, strength or weakness, kindness or cruelty.
And we thought this Rebecca Solnit essay was so good, we have more.
Also from Solomon. What is it about noisily enthusiastic, confident defeatists? Is it that they want everyone else to surrender with them so they aren't the only ones surrendering? Or is it that they are abandoning the very real power we have to resist, to claim a power none of us actually have, to know the future? Because pretending you know what will happen is a worn out excuse for not participating in determining what will happen. And we have power to do so, not just in forestalling authoritarianism, because even if you think it's too late for that, we have countless examples of people who were amazing under authoritarianism, some of whom did win. Sometimes in big ways, by toppling regimes, often in small ways, by living with integrity, by protecting a person or a book or an idea or a principle.
Thank you. And just knowing the people who are on this Zoom, um, I think that amazing people applies to all of you.
Here's a short one from our friend, the governor of Illinois. Things people are begging for: cheaper groceries, no Medicaid or SNAP cuts, release of the Epstein files. He added, things aren't there are people are not begging for an authoritarian power grab of major cities.
So we'll see in just a second from the slides. One of the things that we talked about to make the country that we envision is leaders who really will stand up for our values. So we thought it would be great to have a few examples. I don't know if people saw the clip of Dan Rayfield on Democracy Now! I put the link in there. He's amazing. You know, speaking of leaders who we need for the country we want. And then, if you watched the news hour last night, Hawaii's Governor Josh Green, who is, I think he's a doctor, and he just did an amazing job of talking about what we need for public health and why Hawaii now has joined the three Western coast states in the public health collaborative to be sure that our health is guarded. Okay, and then I just threw this in. If you haven't seen this, the Truth Brigade of Indivisible has great stuff, and they have a whole series of these memes. Dissent is patriotic, and when dissent is really the heroic thing to do. So you can follow that link and see them all and post them if you're on social media. And then this is the timeline you already know. So, how we got to what we're talking about tonight is in July, we brainstormed what's our vision for the country we want. And here were some of the key points. Broad engagement in civic life, especially young people, a real safety net, a new perspective on our enormous wealth that makes a basic standard of living our priority. And then harnessing the positivity of our historic identity as a nation of immigrants and redefining patriotism to mean championing all those things. And then, as I said, we agreed that to make this a reality, we need leaders who aren't afraid to do a fundamental remodeling. And that our role is working to help our candidates to be their best selves and to do the right thing. And I think we do a good job at that. So last month, we then said, okay, if those are our vision and values, what are strategies for sharing them? And so last month, if you were here, Carrie went through these, that when you think about a conversation, start with the value, make it personal. You know, why does it matter to you? Talk about who's responsible for undermining the value, and end with an action that the person can do. And in some ways, we're not going to do that in every conversation, but it's a good thing to keep in mind. And our job is not to change someone in one pass, but just to contribute with a genuine conversation that will make that person more likely to be open to the next conversation. Our job is to connect the dots, to help people see, understand, and act, and to grow the us, to push back against us being told constantly, we're polarized, we're polarized, we're polarized, and to lean into the ways that we're not, and that the majority of us, really share values. So tonight, we're going to look at the range of audiences we may encounter and how each shapes our approach. And we're going to talk about considering, to whom am I speaking? What do I hope to accomplish in this conversation? And also, is this really where I can best spend my finite energy? And you guys, you know how I'm always prepared and I have all the documents opened, but tonight is an exception. I failed to open this document, but I'll get it open in a second. Okay, I'm going to show you this because we'll send it to you, but we're not going to work from it because you'll see it's more a document that you can enjoy at home. So, and I'm really just showing you what we do is our fundamental question. So we describe various possible audiences with whom we may engage. And and therefore the possible purpose of the engagement, as well as what we call the rate of return. That is, what is to be gained by engaging in or pursuing the interaction. This list is not meant to be comprehensive. It's really just to get us thinking strategically about our communication based on who we're speaking with and our anticipated outcome. And our fundamental question is really assessing the rate of return in a conversation. Is this person willing to listen? And am I? Okay. So I'm just you don't have to read it. We're going to walk through on slides, but this is what the whole thing will look like. Okay. Okay. And I see I forgot to take the role plays out from the bottom, but I can certainly do that. Okie doke. So we are breaking it down like this. And okay, things to keep in mind. Neighborhood Leader has shown us again and again that face-to-face conversations are powerful and can motivate people to action. I really want to lean into that because remember that when we actually talk to our voters, we increase the rate of voting remarkably. It's also taught us the importance of listening to understand what matters to the person with whom we're engaging. So again, these slides, they're meant to help you if they help you, and if not, don't be stressing over them. So the first, and we are really interested to know your take on this. So I'm looking at slides, but unmute yourself and speak if you have something to say about any of these or a question. So we tried to start with the most likely to be activated and audience. And so we start with fully engaged activists, and we say, and people we talk to. So we say the size of the group is probably relatively small. And our purpose in talking to other activists is collaboration, planning, learning about events and initiatives, and really finding common ground on which we can join. And what's the likelihood of achieving the purpose of those purposes? We think it's pretty high. So I am going to stop. There are very few of you neighborhood leaders, so you're on the spot now. We're actually looking for, does that make sense to you? Okay, Edie is nodding. She's taken you all off the hook. Okay.
It totally makes sense when I think about some of the other groups that I'm involved with who maybe have a slightly different focus than our group. but they share our overall values. And it's pretty easy to collaborate with groups like that, because you start out pretty much on the same page.
But, I think what we also mean is that we'll be talking to groups that maybe they um don't have a high opinion of the Democratic National Committee, which they call Democrats. And so it is incumbent upon us to talk about that. Where's our common ground, right? And to be able to lean into those conversations and not be discouraged by it, to understand that we may not share every opinion and every priority, but we share a lot. And let's find the ones we do and make common cause on those. Okay. So the next group is people becoming active. And we did a role play on this last time. So we said the size of that group is probably relatively small, just given the whole population. The purpose is nurturing and supporting ongoing engagement with people who are taking the first step, encouraging them to bring other people in, and encouraging them to take the next step. And the rate of return, we think, is really high if somebody has taken the first step, as long as we stay connected, right? So just asking, does that make sense? And can you think of people who might be in that group?
Yeah.
Beth, you're muted. Beth, you're muted. Oh, um, well, probably on your computer, you have to unmute.
Can't you unmute her?
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, I just did. I was clicking the wrong thing. User
Okay.
error, as it is. I don't understand first step, second step, what we're talking about here.
Okay, so in the last Zoom, Mark and I did a role play where Mark has come to a protest for the first
Do you
time.
mean Lance? Wasn't it Lance? You and
Oh, yeah,
Lance?
Lance. Oh my gosh, what a memory. Lance has come the first time. And I want to be sure that he feels supported and will come again or will do the next thing and feels empowered to bring friends if he wants. So that's what we mean. That, if someone is, well, you know how it is when if we think back when I first got active, right? And it's hard to think back before, we had lives of activism. But the first step, things start to open up. And the more we make people feel that they're part of wherever they are, the more likely that is to happen.
But what are they supposed to be part of besides like demonstrations, standing on the corner on Fridays? I mean,
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, because that's something we haven't articulated, and this is what we have in mind. Have you heard of the 3.5% estimate
yes.
that we're in an authoritarian grab for power, right? And research has shown in situations like ours, where at least 3.5% of the population mobilizes, the chances of success in stopping the authoritarians increase to 50%. And so I think what we're all, and that's great, our team, because we think about it so much, we forget to actually say it. I think what's in our mind is everyone who can be mobilized needs to be mobilized. So it means if it's to come out to the next King's Day, if and if you watch the Indivisible, What's the Plan weekly Zooms where Ezra and Leah, share their experience and really amazing brains. Leah will always say, supposing somebody, they're not ready to do whatever, but supposing you say, will you come to the meeting? Do you think you could take notes? Right? It's the kind of thing, it's not
But
threatening.
see, that presumes that there is something that you can go to or do. I'm going to tell you my experience, my shameful, horrible experience in my neighborhood get together just last weekend. There were like maybe 6 of us who've known each other forever and ever. And we're sitting out on somebody's back porch, having a couple of drinks and just chatting. And I know 2 of the people out of the 6, I'm pretty sure, are Trumpers. And I said, because we're just talking like we have for years, I said, what do you like about him? What do you find that he satisfies for you? And do you think either of these 2 men would say anything? No, they just stared at me.
Beth,
Okay, so there's nothing to do about it, but
we're not talking, we're actually, when we go through, you'll see
okay,
that what we actually say. I'm gonna actually flip ahead. Here's what we say
okay, yeah, go
about
ahead.
that.
I'm
But
muting myself.
No. I'm gonna just tell you, we're gonna get, and then I'll back up again. Dedicated MAGAs. The size of the group is too big. The purpose, your day just acquired an extra 10 hours, and you're casting about as to how to spend them. Rate of return, we say, forget about it. There really isn't a return on the investment when there are so many others with whom to have a meaningful exchange. Does that make sense?
See, it does make sense, but what would really like, maybe it's not even possible. I would like to talk to someone who really thinks that what's going on right now is achieving their goals, and I want to know what their goals are. Because these people in my neighborhood are really great guys. They're really nice. We've known each other forever. And yet, what about the current political situation? That would make me feel a lot better if I thought there was some rhyme or reason.
Beth,
And
there's not there are not good reasons. Some people have not yet been hurt by this administration because of their particular positions of privilege. I mean, I can say that to some extent because I'm retired. I haven't lost my job. I haven't been laid off. I haven't been picked up because I don't have brown skin, but eventually many of the things that the administration is doing is going to hurt a lot more people. Right now, prices are going up. I mean, that's one thing that is hurting some people. My son's job is in jeopardy because of Trump's policies. But if 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 people tell you they like Trump and they like what he's doing, maybe they are cruel people who don't care about what happens to
These
others.
2 men are not cruel people.
Right.
I
okay,
can tell you for
They're
sure.
not empathic in some way.
okay, but Beth, here's the thing. There are 4 other people or three other people in that gathering.
That's true.
Right.
And I want you to talk to those people.
Oh,
Because if we
Right.
are, and I totally get, we all get where you're coming from. No doubt about it. It's painful to think that there are people we know who could be supporting the terrible things that are happening.
yeah.
But if we want to come out of it intact, we have to, for now, concentrate on the people who can help make the change.
Yep.
Yeah. You're
And
right. You're
that's what I'm
right.
saying.
That's a really good point.
There's an expression that we use, and one of the slides talked about, how do we make use of the time we have, the resources we have? Spinning your wheels is a waste of resources, in my opinion. And the expression that comes to mind is, you've probably heard, the juice ain't worth the squeeze, right? So you can spend all day talking to those guys, the ones who stare at you and don't say anything. They're making you do all the work in that conversation. They're not giving an inch and you're not gaining any ground. So how much do you
Yeah.
do that?
Eating.
Yeah, no, you're right. I understand that.
But
You know,
thank
and I
you.
go back to something one of my bosses, said once is psychiatry is what those people need to move them. And that's not where we're trained, and that we don't often have those kinds of skills. But that's what it takes to get them to open up and to talk and to realize the dissidence or the that
Dissonance.
yeah, the where the position they've taken they really don't support.
And we want to acknowledge how completely tempting it is for people like us, how magnetizing it is to want to do what you're describing. We're not saying, Beth, what's wrong with you? Get with the program. We're saying that when you're in a group and someone's wearing a MAGA hat, there is this huge temptation, right? To like, what are you thinking? Would you just tell me what you're thinking? But if we only have if we don't have those 10 extra hours, really, we gotta like
No,
spend our time trying to save our country.
no,
Eating.
you're right.
Nancy,
I understand that. That
hey,
makes much more
Edie's over here.
sense.
Nancy, Tracy's trying to say something.
Okay.
It's Edie, really.
The reason I raise my hand, and nobody else usually does in these, is because I have a very hard time breaking into conversations without hollering. So I have listened to this going round and round here. And I'm hearing use your time wisely, etc. It's hopeless.
Not
But
not that it's
what
hopeless, but that other things are so much more hopeful. Go ahead.
um, and I just wanted to say that by not by not having conversation or in some way getting getting through to people who really super disagree with you is that split, that split in society is there, that lack of understanding of one another. You could, for instance, instead of saying to the person, yeah, but why do you still support him? You could talk maybe about things like, I know your son works for the Forest Service. How's things going with his job right now? Is he at all worried?
So,
That kind
Edie,
of thing.
I totally hear you, and that's a great point. But let me say, if you're like in in a train and that's the person you're sitting next to, so that is the only person you get to talk to, power on. But if you are in a situation where there are people in the room who could be moved to actually engage, and you are ignoring them to talk to the person who is part of, let's face it, probably 20% of the population who are way over to the left, we're just saying, then we need your energy to be talking to the 30-40% in the middle, because those are the people who will help us save the country. So what do you think?
What?
Don't forget, our goal is to try to get to that 3.5% to 4% people that will make this go away. And so if we can concentrate on a goal of trying to make a difference right now, those megas aren't going to do that for us. Who are going to do it for us are people who are going to listen, who will maybe step up and take the next step.
and there are people who aren't engaged, and there are people who may think, and so let's, if it's okay, we'll look at a couple more and you can kind of see how we're working up to the MAGAs. So
I think we're working down to the MAGAs.
working down to, okay.
Or the maggots.
Okay, so we would posit that the group who really, if we have the ability to talk to these people, they're people we really need to talk to, right? So they're the people in our world who we think agree with us, but they aren't engaged yet. And honestly, when you think about it, if they agree with us, and the issue is how can we get them to engage, that's a much more likely return than somebody who's drinking the Kool-Aid and is sort of going to be the last people to come over. So in those conversations, we would say our purpose is confirming their values and beliefs, using language of engagement to encourage them and for them to pass on to others. And we think the rate is high as long as we help them find the place they can begin. Okay, so what do you think of that?
No, I think that's very reasonable.
Yeah, so thinking about in our circles, the people we know who we're pretty sure they're on our side, but they're on the sidelines, and thinking about where are the places they could engage and what matters to them. And usually that's the key, right? What I care about, if I can, if Edie, you tell me what you care about, and I can think of a place for you to engage that you feel like you can, I feel like I need to do that. I just need to.
Well, I don't know how to do the hands up symbol. Where is
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah, that's all right.
I don't know where it is. But I've found these days, when especially I've been in a lot of social groups lately, people don't talk about political things because it's too hot and controversial a topic. But
It's been.
if I start a conversation with something like, oh, the kids are going back to school. Our school has this, our district has this new cell phone policy, et cetera, that leads to other things. And people are totally relieved often to talk about how they feel about the current situation, which is an opening to say, you know, we can do something about it. Um, we can protest or we can talk to our friends. We can spread the idea that democracy is a good thing, that, you know, the things that we value. And so I found that it's just when the conversation starts, the floodgates kind of open.
Yeah, good. That's a good point. And I have to say, a friend of mine who's a teacher, second grade, told me, I said, how was the first week of school at GAPS? And she said, first of all, she has a smaller class size than ever before, right? Which comes out of the strike and the contract. And secondly, they also got 10 minutes of prep time. I think, and I
10
can't
minutes.
remember a day or whatever. She said, you know, it sounds so negligible, but it makes a huge difference. And that she's taking work home like 50%, 80% less than she did last
Oh.
year. And so, you know, I agree with you. If getting into school started and, you know, guess what? We all worked hard, right, to support the union. And it really may, if that makes a difference and keeps our teachers, woof.
A lot of people, I think, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are quite a few people who feel like they're alone, like they're isolated, and that adds to the fear and the stress.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the trick is figuring out how to find the place that person can enter, right? So you don't have to talk, but Gretchen, Donna, Bob, you having thoughts?
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Gretchen.
Um, this is really good. And what my last thought when you were all talking, finding things for people to do to step in to start to getting active and stepping up with local issues is probably a lot more. People could connect faster than even a county or a state or a national kind of activity. So, you know,
Yeah.
but I like the way that you're figuring out about how to use your energy the most productively.
And I have to say, there's the flip side to the temptation to engage with, the most MAGA person in the room. Because the other side is like when I walk by my neighbor's house who have the Trump flag flying and like the toy tanks in the yard, pointing towards whoever is approaching. Brenda, do you know the house I mean? Oh, really? It's right down Valletta. Anyway, I I I feel so depressed. And in a way, it lets me off the hook. It's like, okay, we'll get to those people. I don't have to do it today, right? I can talk to other people today. So I think there are two sides to it. Okay. So we were actually going to go through all the slides, then do role plays, but we are a small group. We have flexibility. Susan and Mark, what do you think? You want to do the role play for that group now?
Yes.
Okay, we have role plays for two groups, and that's one of them. So hang on, I'll spotlight the two of you. Okay.
Mark, you're muted. Okay. Uh, excuse me. I'm trying to read your button. It's I can't quite read it. I choose democracy over fascism.
Yep.
Wow, that's a good message. Where'd you get that?
Actually, we produce these locally here. As I think I have one in my pocket, and I like to give them out if somebody's interested.
Who's we?
We are the local Democratic Party, Lynn County Democrats.
Hmm.
And are you interested in doing something to save democracy and prevent fascism?
Well, I'm interested. I don't even know how to begin. I just I feel overwhelmed by the news that I read and the things that I hear about happening, and I don't know what I can do.
Well, that's a sign that you're paying attention. That's great. We want everybody to pay attention. One of the reasons I wear this button is to spark a conversation and let people know what I think. I'm happy to offer you one if you'd like to do the same thing in your own conversations.
Well, I don't think I'm ready to wear a button like that.
Okay. What matters to you in personally about what's going on?
Well, I don't know. I'm horrified when I see what's happening with ICE taking people who are good law-abiding people and hard workers and shouldn't be taken away. I'm concerned on a more personal level about the prices that are rising. I'm worried about other people who are losing their jobs and the militarization of our cities that Trump's trying to do. It just seems like there's so much that I'm concerned about.
Yep, yep. Well, no one of us can stop all of that, but we can lay all those things at the feet of our current administration at the top level. And it, even in a state like Oregon, its effects are coming our way. We see that. So we want to do things as we can locally in a way that we can do it. I would invite you, if you like, to check out the local Dem party that I'm a part of. Come to our meetings. It's a friendly group of people, quite welcoming. We have lots of great information about things that you could participate in, find your own level. Have you ever checked out the Dems locally?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
How do I find out about them?
Well, I happen to be carrying a very nice bookmark with
Oh,
a
that's
nice peak
good.
right on here that has our website on the back. So I'm happy to give that to you. You can take it
Oh,
and
thanks. Thanks.
check that out at your leisure. And I encourage people to check that out regularly. We keep our website very up to date. It has things like local protests in it. It
Well,
has,
that's what I was going to ask you. I don't want to just go to a meeting, but what else are you doing that actually you think makes a difference?
we hold protests at least every week. Lately, we've been doing a couple of them a week. And one of the things I like to say, and people ask why you do that, we do it regularly. I want them to know, the other opposition to know we are not going away. We do get a little bit of pushback, but I must say that the supportive responses are overwhelming. So it's kind of a good feeling. It's a little bit of solidarity depending on how many people show up. It does vary. And when there are national protests, you may have heard about, say, the No Kings protests across the country.
Right?
We very often participate in something at the same time here, if not right in Albany nearby. And all of that information would be found on our website.
Do you think anybody higher up is paying any attention to those protests? Do you think our legislators are paying any attention?
Absolutely. Many of us reach out to our legislators directly. We know that their staff keep track of the information that we present and they tally which side callers are in on. And they bring that information in a summary form to our legislators. That shapes their perceptions of what their constituency is thinking and saying and what they will do. Those are very important things. And we also want to be visible. There is a concept that if enough people consistently get active, get busy, and protest, that's how we prevent this fascism, this authoritarianism. And that's what we want.
How can I find the ways to contact my legislators? Is that on your website?
Absolutely. There are a couple
Okay.
places on our website, specifically if you navigate there and look for resources, there's a place under there with all different ways to contact and other methods as well.
Okay. Well,
Simple ways to reach out on a regular basis if you like.
all right. Maybe I'll try doing that. I guess I would take a button if you have an extra
Oh,
one.
I do, right here.
Oh, thanks. I'll wear it. Maybe I'll come to one of your protests. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And bring a friend.
Okay.
Okay, guys.
Well done.
I know we love the part where they reach through and like give each other things, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, Susan.
Well, I was just going to say I had in the role of Mark, I had this very same conversation with someone who came to the Honk and Wave on Friday for the very first time. And really, the conversation just was almost the same as that without the button, but talking about the things that we could do, giving her the bookmark,
I was
inviting her to come along to meetings.
I was sitting down because my knee's been acting up, and Susan comes over, and I knew she was coming for a bookmark.
So the only thing I have a question, Mark, why didn't you tell Susan where and when the protest was?
That
And
was
I know it's because really
oversight
your
on
wife
my
and you
part.
go together.
It's because he knows I already know. But in another life, you would have to tell the person.
And actually, that's
Yes.
usually the first thing out of my mouth when I'm talking to somebody about the protests. Actually, I was having that conversation a couple hours ago with somebody else.
Wow. Okay, what do people think?
Was
Useful?
great. That was great.
Very
I
good.
loved it.
And you know what? I am looking at everybody and I know you all already do it, right? I
Not
mean,
that well.
Okay. So here
We do.
they rehearsed. Okay.
And also, you got to remember that we are also doing this all the time. I mean, I field questions for the Dems. We go to the protests and we invite people to come back and bring somebody. Nancy keeps reminding me to invite people to bring somebody, and it's just practicing it, and you get comfortable.
And what I get now that somehow I didn't at all the meetings, team meetings we've had where Mark talks about his button is when you wear a button like that, people, it's a you can like find the people who agree.
Right.
I have come to I'm at the point now where I not only wear it, I keep one in my pocket. And I almost always come home without it because people want it.
Who
That
did you
button
get
is
them?
clever because the way it's written, it forces you to lean close.
That's true.
Exactly. Which I remember doing just the other day.
Okay, and being me, every time you say it's in your pocket, all I can think of is ouch. Okay.
That happens too, but it's worth it.
Okay. So and just, our belief is that that is the group that it's the most important to talk to, right? Because they're right there and they just need to take that step, right? We don't have to convince them that things are bad. It's more finding the thing that person can do that they feel comfortable doing. And I love the part about contacting your legislators.
Mhm.
Um, and I might have added, that if people haven't done that, you'll be shocked that their staff are really grateful, right? That you're calling. I
No
mean,
guidance.
I know. And also, when they answered the phone, I mean, I pretty much, but if you think about our congressional representatives, and if you're in HD 16, your state representative, you know, people are great. Their staff are glad to answer the phone.
And
Okay.
and it's interesting. People have different levels of comfort with different levels of participation. I've had people who can't imagine going to a protest, but they'll be happy to make phone calls, and vice versa. They're scared to death to call a elected official, but they'll come hold a sign. They won't even think about it. And then I was thinking about somebody that I talked to last week who I ran into her at the Labor Day protest in Lebanon. She not only called multiple people at our representative's office, but then she showed up at two protests.
Wow. So sometimes just takes that little spark, right? That
Mhm.
would have been me when I started out. Okay. Um, so the next group is colleagues, friends, family who believe nothing is working. And we think this is probably a relatively small group in our circles, just given and who aren't engaged. I should have added that. That wasn't clear. And so the purpose of engagement is learning more about when somebody says nothing is working and examples of what they think is not working, where they want things to go, and figuring out, are they persuadable? Are they somebody who actually could engage more? Because we talk about this stuff a lot, and we agreed that sometimes when people say things aren't working, it's like that quote by Rebecca Solnit, where defeatists, they want you to agree with the defeat so they don't have to do anything. But sometimes people are genuinely disheartened, and having a good conversation and thinking about why them engaging with something they care about makes a difference. It could be the best thing you do this week. Okay. And we say, the likelihood of it having a useful outcome is moderate to low, really just depending upon why and what they believe isn't working. And again, Edie, you've reminded us that sometimes people who are the most tenacious in believing things aren't working tempt us the most to keep engaging with them, and just to think about, where is this conversation going? And sometimes ending the conversation is good, because it's possible that they're going to have other conversations, and we planted a tiny seed, even though it doesn't feel like we did, if that makes sense. So the next group is people we may know who voted for Trump and are disillusioned. And we think that the group is probably relatively small. The purpose would be assessing their persuadability. Did they vote straight R, or was this vote unusual? I have a voter who's a D, voted straight D, but he voted for Trump. Okay. What are the issues or concerns that caused them to do that? That tell me more. Are they disillusioned about their key issue? Or is it that, that the Democrats are the devil, so you better vote for Trump? And the rate of return, again, moderate to low, depending upon your circles, the answers to why they voted that way, and what are their issues. And a single interaction is only one step. And so I don't really personally have those people in my circle, but Brenda does. So we decided that, and so for her, it really makes sense to think about this and how to have those conversations, because she's going to go to events where she's going to run into people who are like that, and people who know that she is somebody who thinks a lot about political things and how things are. And so people may be more likely to talk to her, right? Because she knows them socially, and they know she's somebody who really is thinking about stuff and caring. So Brenda and Steve are going to do a role play, and I think about this group, and I think it takes place at a cookout or something, right? In Brenda's neighborhood. Okay, hold on. Let me find Brenda. Where'd you go? There you are. Okay, and I'll only add that everybody else on the team is as eager to see this as you are. Okay.
I guess I will mention something. What I've learned, especially in a recent Zoom I saw from Red, Wine, and Blue, that these people want to be listened to. If you can find an issue, can you hear me? And talking about it and listening a lot and asking a few questions, especially how they are on a scale from 0 to 10. This one is going to be 10 is the most favorable. They find as they begin to talk in their disillusionment that their scale of approval is less and less for Trump. And so that's a nice conversation, and maybe a little action suggested at the end. So that's what we're going to do.
Okay, so you're at a cookout. Okay.
Yeah, you should envision we're in a potluck and that there is a person with catering skills hovering around the food table, and then there's this human vacuum cleaner that just likes to eat shows up. So that's sort of the scenario.
Who's the vacuum cleaner? Oh.
Hi, Brenda. Did you bring the salsa? This is really good.
No, I brought the cheese tray. You should try some of the Gouda.
Oh, yes. I love that. If the only things in the world were chips, salsa, and cheese, I would be just fine. Hey, speaking of that, hey, did you hear about Ronnie? And he can't build the shop that he was going to put an addition on. There's some crazy business about this right of way that's 100 years old for the power company to put in a line that's never existed. I just wish the county could get out of the way when people want to build new stuff. There's so many regulations in our way.
Have you talked to the commissioners, county commissioners?
No, there's just too much bureaucratic nonsense with those guys. Yes, I don't have much to do with them. And I'm just here. I just want to eat until I can't hold anymore.
Well, talk about eating. Your wife told me about what she paid for the avocados for the guacamole. It was just crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. And, it's the damn tariffs. And every time she goes to the store, I get my ear bent about how much food's costing and how she's like overspending on the food budget, and I really don't care because I'm going to eat anyway. So
you don't support the new tariff?
Well, yeah, I really support the tariffs. Conceptually, half of the country's history, we funded the government with tariffs. And then, in the 19 teens around the World War, we decided to come up with this, well, let's do an income tax instead and didn't rely on tariffs. And now we have to pay this crazy income tax. And, the whole purpose of the tariffs was it funded our government and it protected our industries, and that's what we should go back to. That's why we need tariffs, is to protect our industries and to fund our darn government.
So on a scale of like 0 to 10, 10 being the most favorable, are you like a 9 or 10?
Well, I support the concept of the tariffs, but the way Trump is doing it, it's just too random. It's like he jumps around. It's like 50% one day and 5% the next day. And so, if you're a small business, you can't plan around that. The really big companies that got, like a room full of people, doing logistics and buying stuff and trying to figure out how it all works, the big companies, they're okay. But the poor little guys, they're getting creamed on this. I got a farmer friend. He has a tractor and some implements that are made in Germany, and they broke down this summer. And can he get parts for that stuff now? They're just crazy expensive. So it's just killing the small guys that don't, they can't get protected anyway. And it's like, in the food thing we talked about, this food cost is just going up like wild. And I'm talking to, the other guys that were small businessmen like me, and there's too much uncertainty. They can't figure out how to plan for it. So no, I'm not 100% in the way Trump's doing tariffs. That's just dumb. The Congress needs to get involved and do the tariffs. That's what we really need.
Well, have you shared all this with like Representative Bynum or the senators or even CD2 Cliff Bentz, Representative Cliff Bentz?
You know, I don't think that'll do any good. You know, I just don't know if they'll do anything.
You would be surprised. They need to hear our opinions. That's how they base a lot of their actions. You know, I always carry around contact list of all our representatives and senators, and I have an extra one in my purse. Can I give one to you?
Yeah, sure, sure.
I challenge you to to give these representatives a call and let them know how you feel about these tariffs.
You know, okay. Yeah, I could do that.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, I gotta go. Willie just pulled the burgers off the grill, so I'm gonna go get some burger.
Thank
Hey,
you.
see you later.
Bye, Steve.
Hey.
Steve, don't go to Burger yet. Did Steve vote for Trump?
That was
Oh.
an assumption. Did he?
Yeah, I think that's our assumption. Yeah, that whole lead-in part about the tantrum about you know, the guy that can't build his shop, that was sort of to build my MAGA credentials.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Pretty knew that.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, you guys, fabulous. Wow. Okay, I'm removing the spotlight.
You know, and we've talked about this before, and I think Brenda mentioned this from her red wine and blue, is some of this is more, some people would call it deep canvassing. And, you know, part of deep canvassing is just getting the other person to talk. And so if they're a person who's of a more conservative bent, let's say, just getting them to talk about their own position sort of makes them realize how unsupportable and goofy it is sometimes, because it's, you know, it gets hard to rationally or even without nonsense talking about a Trump policy.
That's the Jordan Klepper approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have some shared experience and opinions about it. So it's kind of an opening. It's a small step, but it kind of makes them see that the needle's kind of moved.
Well, and I think, you know, with Brenda, just the simple fact of, have you shared with your representatives and handing over the contact information is just, you know, I can't imagine you could do it any better than that. That, you know, that's your irrational argument is probably not going to dent them, but giving them an action to do, like call your representative, that maybe can move them, make them think about it. They have to think about, I'm going to talk to my representative and I don't want to sound like a moron.
And then they might start paying more attention.
Yeah.
Okay, Bob.
Yeah, sometimes I find if I'm having trouble finding something to talk about with someone that sounds like they're a little bit right of center, I think back to days I used to be active in the Sierra Club, and I start bringing up environmental issues. And these days, it's pretty easy to talk about climate change. Most people know it's getting hotter, and in spite of what Trump and his cronies say, climate change is real. And I think most people are becoming quite aware of that. But what they may not be really aware of is that Trump is fighting climate change. He doesn't want to do anything about it, and he's really fighting it very hard. He's talks about windmills, wind turbines, like as if they were the worst thing in the world, and solar panels are ugly, and just all kinds of things like that. And so I'm sort of an expert on some of these things, and so I'm pretty confident to talk to people about it, and they can say something that's stupid, and I can talk them out of it. So that's
Yeah, I think
one
that's a
thing that I
key
do.
point. You know, you when you're talking to someone who's really on the other team, you have to pick the topics where you feel confident. And Bob
Yes,
feels confident in environmental issues. Some of us might feel more confident in healthcare or immigration, or there's lots of things we could be experts in or not experts in.
exactly.
So what I loved about the role play was it was all in good humor. Brenda, I loved that your whole aspect was just sunny, right? Like you weren't keyed up, right? You weren't, it didn't feel like it was a make or break moment for you. It felt more like you just having this, badinage over the salsa. And then I love that you said you challenged him in that totally friendly way, right? That was good. Okay. And also it's pretty thrilling if somebody voted for Trump and now it's telling you that he's stupid. You know.
Hey,
Okay.
I had these conversations, I'm telling you. And that's common ground, listen, challenge, with an action. And it really it's opened a lot of doors. It's opened up a lot of people. It's moved the needle for a lot of people in our experience, but it's got to be done with fun and humor and all that. It does.
So thinking about what Beth said, there she is with her two MAGA guys, and they don't want to respond. What is it that got people to talk to you?
Me?
Mhm.
Yeah, because you do. I mean, people, you and James, is it that James goes to work and they kind of, it's more of a free for all, and so they know where you guys stand? Like, yeah.
Well, they know all the signs in front of my house during elections, and James tells them a little bit about what I do. Um, it could be get tense. They try not to talk politics at work, but they do at the lunchroom and stuff like that. And sometimes he just listens, and they just last election and before they were just really total MAGA. And then James would just say, I'm not, and I've never liked Trump. And my wife is working really hard for you. And he always points that out. And this last election, a whole bunch of them secretly came to James and said, tell your wife I didn't vote for Trump. And it's just sometimes it's very private, and sometimes it's all jolly and stuff, and talking about issues. And then I have a neighbor that's so intensely MAGA that I can't really get cornered with the conversation with them. There's always something I got to get in the house, and that's on the stove. It's just it. You just have to figure it out and feel it out, and try to stay a community. I think that's the main thing.
Steve.
I'm going to I'll make this guess about Elizabeth's two gentlemen. If she had them separately, she might have got a different response. I think there's some maleness going on there, and neither one of them wanted to be the weak one and say anything that would give it away. They both had to stay strong. And so that's why she didn't get a response. If she got them separately, she might have got some feedback.
But it's slow. I would never ask them to come to a protest.
Oh, no, no, no. No, that would just set them off and drive them back. Drive them back into the cave.
You know what? It reminds me, remember all of those jokes about how many does it take to change a light bulb? And the one that I always think about is how many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is one, but the light bulb really has to want to change. Jokes. Okay. So I think we have one more, just one more slide. Is that right? And they're disillusioned. And then we said we're trying to go through everybody, colleagues, friends, family who are listening to the other side but haven't yet decided who they support. And really, in the end, we said, are there still those people? And, if there are, staying in contact and conversation, using current examples, and knowing you won't change them in one conversation. And the rate of return is really worth your while if you've already activated all the other more persuadable groups. And I think what we're saying, and then just the last slide is the, MAGA. And I think what we're saying is not, if you're with a group of people and they're in one of the groups we think are not very persuadable, but that's who you're with. It doesn't mean don't talk to them. It more means don't exhaust yourself, right? Don't deplete yourself. Save your energy for where your energy will have the biggest results, right? So, like, Beth, don't go home from the gathering and beat yourself up, right? Because you just couldn't get those guys to speak. I mean, I think that's truly what we're saying.
And I'll give an example from the protests we're at. The overwhelming responses are positive. And I like to kind of keep a mental note of how many clearly negative responses that I spot, which is usually a pretty low number, relatively speaking. Um, Sometimes they're very well defined. Um, but there's a person that shows up here in Albany, especially in the warmer weather when people have their windows down a lot, and he has a very strong voice. And to those individuals driving by, he always shouts very loudly, "Trump doesn't love you." And it gets quite a laugh from the rest of us over, over and over. And I've heard it in Corvallis. And the person I was talking to earlier tonight that I was sharing protest details with likes to go to Corvallis, likes to bring amplification, and likes to amplify a siren sound that she does when the rolling coal guys go by, and it's very loud. And apparently they hit their brakes awful quick when she does that, and the whole crowd erupts. So there's that too. It's like you don't have to be afraid to engage, but you can engage with some humor.
Perfect.
And just like Trumple Thinskins, these people don't like being mocked.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's it for our role plays. And I just want to go through the good of the order. Do people know this was this past week for Val Hoyle if you're in Congressional District 4? And then this is a reminder to us, and we'll all get these slides, that right now, priority one is being sure our Senate Democrats stand up for our values in the budget battle and be sure that their leader, Schumer, does. And we can all call Chuck Schumer because he is the leader of our party, and they will answer the phone they won't shut you out if you're not in New York. And then I found these 5 demands that, if like what do Democrats need to stand up for? So you can have other ones, but these were banning or reversing the rescissions from the prior continuing resolution, restoring Medicaid, curtailing the ICE overreach and illegality, implementing Russia sanctions, and setting up basic ethics requirements for all three branches, meaning stop the insider trading for Congress and the court, but especially for Congress, and really some ethics with teeth for the Supreme Court. And I guess I can, if anybody wants the link to where is the longer version of that, but that is something we need to be calling Schumer about. So he cannot cave this time around. The weekly honkin' waves. Does everybody know about the resource fair that's happening in Corvallis next Saturday? That is specifically if you have friends. I know everybody on this call already volunteers for stuff, but if you have people who are like, I really want to do something, but I don't know what I can do, that's the whole point of this resource fair. So people of goodwill who want to help can connect with an organization that is doing something in one of their priority areas. Okay. September 14th, I hope everyone will come to Festival Latino in Monteith Park from 12 till 5. But if you're going to the Lynn County Dems Cookout and dessert auction, you may want to leave a little early because that starts at 4:30, and you could have a day full of big fun. Do you all know that No Kings 2, speaking of the 3.5%, this is the next really huge nationwide event. It's going to be on the 18th of April. And if you go to this
October.
of October,
18th of April, 75.
I know exactly. 'Twas the 18th of April in 75. I lived in Massachusetts too long. Go to nokings.org and you can register for updates. And then you'll find out when events around here are scheduled. And again, it's always worthwhile to call Cliff Bentz because he is hurting all of us. He is forcing all of us to pay more by his votes. So he is harming us. And then tentatively, we've got October 5th for the next Zoom, and we will let you know if that changes. Okay, that was it. Any comments, questions, anything?
Yes, where can we get those buttons?
Mark, Donna wants a button.
Oh, I want a lot of buttons so I can pass them out as well.
Donna, go for it. So are you going to come to the Honkin' Wave on Friday?
No, I'm going to be in Pendleton. It's roundup time.
Oh, that's right. It's roundup time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Mark will call you and figure.
Oh, okay. Or maybe at the next
Or you can go to his house.
drinking liberally or something.
What?
I'll have to get a hold of some more buttons.
Do you? I'm happy to pay for them.
Okay. I like the little ones. I have the big one on for tonight just so it was
Yeah.
visible, but the smaller one is the one I usually wear, the one I handed to Susan,
Yes.
because people have to move in close to read it. It works really well.
Right.
And
And
I don't have a button maker that size. That's the one the Dems owns. So
aha. Well, that sounds good to me because I'm starting to look like a car with too many bumper stickers.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, well, totally appreciate you all being here. Small but powerful group. We'll figure out what to do next time. Any thoughts on what would be of interest? Okay, you don't have to have thoughts. We have plenty of thought.